right, thank you, everybody. Thanks for having me. Of course, thanks to Jason for inviting me, and Mrs. Navanitam, who was also part of inviting me. Yeah, I was planning to show a few slides, but we can do that after the video. But I want to thank Jason and Mrs. Navanitam, and also Mrs. Ignatius for. I've been here 4 times already at TSA. I see a lot of familiar faces actually, so I'm really happy to be here. Yeah, this is what I want to show because this is my fourth time actually here. I did an internship in 2013, and I'm always feeling so welcome here in Chennai and at TSA, also because of Mrs. Ignatius, who always welcomes me and makes me feel at home, so I'm really thankful for that. And now this should be working, right? Yeah, great. So this was my class actually in 2013, class 10A. I've taught them for over 20 classes, and you can see me in the middle with Mrs. Padma, the teacher, who I really admired and was really a helpful teacher for me to learn about Indian education and how things work at TSA. This is my second time I attend Start Global. This was the first time. You can see me over there, a bit younger actually. It was like 11 years ago, and you can see the girl in the blue. That's I met her actually almost on the plane towards India, and now she's my fiance. We're getting married. So. Yeah, that makes India and TSA such a special place for me. We already have 2 children, and we gave them Indian names actually. Maya, my daughter, who is 5 years old, and Bodhi, our son, who is 7, 8 months old. So India is very special for me. I just wanted to let you know that. So I've taught in India. I've did sessions with teachers. Yeah, I've done a lot, and I just love India. We're going to do a few things today. Of course, it's about the topic fostering creativity for influential pedagogy. And I'm going to give a lot of practical examples. I just want to know, because I know there's a lot of teachers here, I know there are some principals and other people here, but please raise your hand when you're a teacher and when you're actually going to teach next week or in the week after. So who is actually teaching? Please raise your hand. I'm just curious how many teachers are there. Okay, that's really, really good to see, because I'm going to give a lot of practical examples that I hope maybe you can even use it for your next class or maybe the next year, but I hope to give some examples that you can actually use. That's my goal actually of today. But before I'll start, I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to talk about education in the Netherlands, give a small connection with literature, and then I'm going to give a lot of examples. And at the last moment, I will give some information about the formative culture that we are creating on our school in the Netherlands. But first of all, I have 2 videos, at least my video. I don't know if the video of Joy is also going to be played, but at least my video about to give you like an idea of how education in my school looks like. So please, if you would like to play my video, I would love that.
The Arte College in Almere Poort is a secondary school 20 minutes away from Amsterdam with 850 students aged 12 to 18. Our school stands for unconventional, creative and challenging education, functioning like a theatre company to prepare students for further education and society. Alongside earning diplomas, students acquire a wide range of skills. With creativity as the subject of this session, we would like to explain why we at Arte College think creativity is important in education. At Arte College, we emphasize the importance of creativity in education. As a school that has culture at the core of its identity, we dedicate significant time to arts and culture. Believing it enhances students' learning, broadens their worldview, and boosts their creative abilities. Arts and cultural education play a crucial role in students' personal development, fostering social, emotional, physical, creative, and cognitive growth. The fact that Arte College places so much emphasis on art and culture is evident in several ways. You can see it in the building itself, sense it in the teachers, and observe it in the students. The walls are adorned with a lot of student artwork. This focus on art and culture is also reflected in the curriculum, as many classes are directly or indirectly related to these subjects. Our curriculum includes various art subjects such as music, visual arts, theatre, dance, and digital arts.
Hou je bek. Wat is nou het sterkste moment in deze les? Ik dacht dat het gewoon goed.
Despite this strong focus, we also cover all compulsory subjects, integrating art and creativity where possible. Arts and culture unify the curriculum, offering a better understanding of the world and encouraging different ways of thinking and new ideas. Arts education helps develop essential 21st century skills, crucial for solving contemporary problems. A culture-rich learning environment inspires students, broadens their perspectives, enhances creativity, and improves performance. It also fosters an inclusive, positive, and safe climate where students build self-confidence, empathy, and respect for others. In summary, Art College provides a creative and challenging education with a strong focus on arts and culture. We nurture students' personal and academic growth in an inclusive and inspiring atmosphere, preparing them for the future with essential skills. At Art College, students' creativity and unique talents are celebrated and developed.
All right, so that's my school, and I'm really proud of my school. It's such a nice place to work. You can see it in the video, but it's difficult maybe to understand how the school is, but it's really a special place. It's a place for students that really are creative, and the creativity is really essential to go there because you will get a lot of subjects such as dance and a lot of arty type of subjects, and even in my subject geography, I try to embed like the arts, the arty skills that you. So I make them draw, I make them make videos, etc. So I try to even in the normal subjects you will find creativity. Our vision. This is just a small summary of the video, but I want to explain why this school is so special to me. Because of the creativity, because of the teachers that are really creative, but the students and the teachers and the whole building make sure that there is such a safe climate over there. There are a lot of schools that you can see bullying or people looking down on other children, and it doesn't happen in our school because everybody is. It's really harmonious, if that's the right word. It's really a nice vibe, and that's also because of the way we teach. We don't have normal classrooms. We call it learning squares. So that means you have like 4 classes, 5 classes next to each other. They're actually big classrooms, so you really see each other. Normally, maybe when I went to school, I had friends who were like in my same class, or maybe also in the first class when I was in the first class. But in my school, you can have like a 8th graders sitting next to a 10th grade class or an 11th grade class or even a 5th grade class. So you really see each other. So you see a lot of friendships that are not within the same year. You see friendships that like a 6th year with an 8th year. So that makes it really a special, really special school and a special place to work at. The Dutch school system, because it's different than the Indian system. So I want to tell you something about it. We've learned about the international system, and of course every country has their own system. And I think it's important to know how the Dutch system works, because I'm not here to tell you this is the way you all should teach, because the Indian way is different than the Dutch way. But I hope you can maybe find some inspiration or a few bits that inspire you and help you maybe do some different things within your class. So what kind of schools? Art College, as the video said, we have primary schools and secondary schools. Art College is a secondary school, so that's a school for the children between 12 and 18, and after that they will go to university or they start working, or they're going on their path after the secondary school. And as it may seem like it's a really different school than the traditional school, but it's a normal school actually. We have all the mandatory subjects and participate in the national exams. But the thing is, schools try to distinguish themselves. I think it's also in India, maybe TSA wants to focus on internationalization. You want to distinguish yourself as a school to attract students. And that's the same thing in the Netherlands actually. My fiance actually has a school that's really focused on sports. So there are also always children that are really into sports or are climbing to be a professional. Then that's a good school for them. And you don't have to be a professional, but if you're more interested in sports, that should be a good school for you. But if you're interested in arts, you should go to my school. And some children are more really focused on science, technology. We also have schools within our city that are more focused on science or internationalization. So every school does the mandatory subjects. Also my school, it may look like it's an art school, but we just have a little bit more time for arts, and we incorporate it within subjects, but it's still a normal school. That's important to know, because all the things, examples that I'm showing you, should be possible even in your class, because you can be creative in every school, I think. Before I'm giving you a lot of examples, I want to let you know how do I motivate students. Because for personal development, I think maybe 100 years ago they said, okay, for personal development you need knowledge. But I think most of people think it's not just knowledge. You need like certain resources for a plant to grow. And it's not just, okay, here's knowledge, the plant will grow. There are 3 things. It's a known theory, I guess, for most of you. It's the self-determination theory of Daisy and Ryan. And they think 3 resources are important. You have to have some way of autonomy to be motivated. You have to make some choices, be able to make choices. And I think that's important in your classroom, to give your students the possibility to make choices. You can make a video of this, you can make a poster, or maybe you can write something about it. Give options, because the learning goal will be the same, but the way they process it will be different. You have to feel competent to do things. So make sure, the student, you can only learn when you think you can do it. So make sure your student feels competent, or you prepare them to make them competent to do things, because that will motivate them. And at last, I think Peter said it in introduction, relationship is the key, it's the most important thing. So of course, outside of the classroom is a little bit, maybe people won't think about it, but inside and outside of the classroom are both so important. So relationship is important between teacher and student, but also between students. So it motivates when there's a good relationship between the people that you're working with. So these three things are the resources, the main ingredients to be motivated as a student. And I try to think of these three things whenever I design a method, an activity, or whatever, to learn to make sure my students will be motivated, because sometimes it's difficult. Even after COVID, it was maybe a little bit more difficult because they were used to being at home. So I always try to motivate my students, especially with these three things. So as a geography teacher, I try to be creative, and I try to do it in three things. I actually made of three categories that I'm going to explain you about. The first one is I try to give diverse assessment methods. So when I went to school, it was a lot of maybe, okay, you read this chapter, you make these assignments, and you will get a test. And then you will get to the next chapter, you will read it, and you will get a test. What I want is my students to have diverse assessment methods. We're going to learn about Bloom this, I think, tomorrow, but every student learns in their own way. So it's important that it's not all about just writing, memorizing. It's important to do diverse things. So every period or every year, I try to think of diverse assessment methods. I will give examples later on. Student choice is also important to me. So when I have an assessment method, or when I have a class, or when I have a learning goal, I try to give choices. It's not possible for every class, but it's nice when students have choices, certain classes. Not like, okay, we all have to go through the same, jump over the same fence the same way. No, it's nice that you can have the ability to give different options for the students. And at last, I like to give innovative lesson designs. There are always, for every subject, there are difficult things to learn, and I try to think of something that makes it easier to learn, makes it more fun to learn. So I like to be creative as a teacher to make them learn eventually. So I'm going to give some examples. Actually, Mrs. Navanitam has some small pieces of papers that I would like. Yeah. Please hand them out. Maybe someone can help her, because it's like 100 pieces of paper. That would be great, because one of my favorite things I do every year is a debate, actually. My colleague, maybe some of you know her, Mrs. Brenda, she was also here at TSA like 9 years ago. She made this assessment method, and every year with my students we talk about globalization, and globalization is an important subject, of course, and you can read about it, you can watch a video, but what I like is to really experience such subjects, because we're all living in a globalizing world, and there are a lot of roles and parts and characters that are important within globalization, and it's important to know these roles. So every one of you will get a role, a character, a part of globalization, and please read it for a minute, and then I'm going to give like a statement about globalization, and I want 2 or 3 people to react, but not as themselves, but as their role. Maybe you're a McDonald's manager, maybe you're a farmer in Africa or in India or in the Netherlands. Just read your role and please participate. I want 2 or 3 people to explain to them what they think of globalization. Just take 1 minute. It's actually a Dutch assignment, but I used ChatGPT to translate it, so I hope it's I hope the English is well. I hope it's good because it was more easy and I need to be resilient, right? As a teacher today, I'm going to say globalization is a good thing. And I would like two or three responses about maybe some farmer or someone who can explain to me whether it's good or bad. What do you think? Globalization is a good thing. Please, 2 or 3 opinions.
According to me, globalization is a good thing.
Okay, great. And what was your role actually? Because you said job opportunities?
Okay, I'm a worker in a main port.
Okay.
And here, which I've got is that it has created transport and increased the transportation. And according to me, my job is secured. So according to my point of view, I say globalization has benefited me.
Okay, great. I hope also after AI your job is still there, but that was...
No, yeah, it will be there. It will be there
Okay,
because
good,
I still stand with that.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for your response and your opinion. Anyone else? Maybe someone who disagrees, who thinks globalization isn't that great because she's saying, okay, there will be jobs, etc. What is a different opinion? It's all good.
Well, so the more we spend time learning about other cultures, we start to forget about ourselves and who we are as a people. And the more that happens, we see a greater divide between the generations. As someone that's so proud of my own heritage and what part of the culture that I have, it's very distressing to see the young people turn more and more to other cultures and adopting other ways of thinking that means that our culture may die out. And I really believe that there's an importance in maintaining the essence of who we are as individuals and as a culture.
Wow, thank you. And what was your role actually?
I'm part of an indigenous tribe in North America.
Ah, great. Oh, it's good connection, North America actually. Anyone else who would like to share? Maybe one last?
So I'll take this. No, so my role is here. You will choose and substantiate your own position.
Okay.
Do thorough research to form a correct opinion. And so since I'm choosing my own, so I'm the ethical consultant here.
You're sorry, you're?
I'm the ethical consultant
Okay,
here,
yeah.
which is a future job where we are going to talk about whether the globalization will be kind of a facilitating. But my question here would be like, if I have to, the silos which are they are forming right now between the farmers and the CEOs of this. So how are we as a society or community are going to address this situation? And then where does the ethic plays the role here, that what she said, Cindy, that okay, the confusion which is happening around us, that whether we should adopt AI, whether we should leave, whether the children should be given the AI access or not. So all these will actually, the globalization, that's the formulation of things, like you start early. But then what about the cultural divide? What about the digital divide? What about the economic status divide? Where are we in this particular situation? So that is what I'm going to be talking about.
Yeah, great. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
You really thought well about it. So
Yes.
thank you. And I hope you can imagine, I just wanted you to experience what my students experienced during the class, because they were giving this role. And of course, you're all a bit older than my students are, so it's easier for you to, okay, I read it and I'm going to explain my role. But the students, they get a little bit more time. They get like 2 or 3 classes. They get a role. They're going to do some research. They're going to, write an essay about it. And after 2 or 3 classes, we actually have a debate. So the pro-globalization people will be there. The anti-globalization people will be there. And we're actually having a debate, learning how to debate, actually like it happens in the politics. So I will be like the chairman or the one say, okay, you can speak. And it's really a wonderful learning experience. And they really understand afterwards more about the different perspectives that are important to globalization. I always ask my students to maybe even dress like the Dalai Lama or dress like a farmer. Some students do it, so that makes it actually fun, or they're going with an Indian accent because they are a farmer, and it's nice. They're actually talking English because they're from America, so that makes it really a nice learning experience. And this is actually a formative assessment, so they won't get any grade out of it. So it's actually, we were, first of all, I will talk more about formative, but we were scared when we offer like an assessment without a grade, they won't be motivated, but nothing has changed. They will still do the same, they will still find it very interesting and fun to do. And during the summative test, I will ask questions. Okay, what was your role? Why do you think globalization is good or bad? And I even asked them about roles of children in the class. So they need to pay attention, but I won't give them a grade for the debate, because debates are really hard to give a grade actually, but it's important that they attend, do their best, and learn. So this is an example. Other example, there's been a lot of talking about AI, and I've been confronted with AI during this exercise because I've been doing this for like a long time, this exercise. They need to write a news article about a disaster in the future, like a volcano, like a hurricane, and I thought of this because they can't copy anything out of internet because it's going to be in the future. And I can check whether it's happened before. But now they just ask AI, please give me a news article in 2050 in Indonesia, a volcano, and there comes a really nice article about an earthquake or volcano in Indonesia. So I had a problem this year because I had a lot of news articles that was like, how can you write these nice words? Do you really understand what this means? So that was a challenge for me, but I fixed it, or I thought of something, so I just went in the conversation with the students and asked, okay, this word, what does it mean? And I asked them, please, I know a lot of you use ChatGPT, and I want it to be a learning experience, so if you have used it, you feel free. I won't give you like a 1 or a low grade. Come to me and we'll talk about it and we'll make it an actually learning experience. And most of them were honest and went to me and we thought of something. And I will adjust. I will be resilient. I will adjust for next year because next year I think I will do it differently. No laptops during the first 2 classes. First class, you have to really think of yourself, hand in everything that you've done during the class. Second class, maybe you use maps. Third class, you use your book. And the fourth class, you can use AI or ChatGPT and make it a nice article. But then I know what you have done during the first 3 classes. I know what you've learned, and it's nice to learn to use ChatGPT, but not during the first class because a lot of learned things will be just AI, and I want them to think for themselves. So this is also the first assessment method that I use. As a geography teacher, it's a lot about processes like erosion, weathering, sedimentation, and these processes are perfect to draw. So I like to make my students draw. We actually have a geographical sketch test that's only sketching, so no writing, only sketching. I've learned them about weathering, erosion, types of volcanoes, how do mountains form, and they just have to sketch it. When you sketch it, you can really show if you understand the things I've explained. It's not applicable for every subject, of course, but I think for some are, and I think it's a wonderful learning experience to just do a sketch test. Geography is about maps. We have a period in which we make them learn to make their own map. You always have maps with, okay, volcanoes in Indonesia or population density in the Netherlands. But you can also combine maps. And then you can choose what's important. You will be more motivated if you can choose your own map. So a croquis is a French term for a sketched map, and they need to combine different maps of their interest. So maybe they think anime in Japan is interesting. Okay, where do people in China watch anime or watch football, and they combine it with maybe pollution or population density, and it will be a storytelling map. It will combine maps with each other. You can ask a question about it, and you'll find connection within certain subjects that are interesting to you, and you will learn about how making maps, learning about a country like China. We do it about China. So you will learn different skills, but you have some choices that will motivate you to make these maps. It's not only about making the map, it's also about writing like a true geographer about what you see. Okay, so in the northern part you see there, in the east part you see this, but it isn't in the middle. So really describe how a country functions and what is there in the east and what is there in the west and what isn't there in certain places. So this is maybe a more standard thing, but making posters about conflicts in the world. So this is about North and South Korea and Israel. They needed to make, there are certain things that needed to be there, because I always think it's important to give space, give choices, but when you give too much space, it can go a whole different way that doesn't meet with the learning goals you were trying to achieve. So the things I said with this exercise, there needs to be a timeline of this conflict. When did it start? When did it end? What were important moments? There needs to be a map. There needs to be some kind of drawing. There needs to be an explanation. There maybe needs to be, there needs to be certain things. And then you can really get a learningful experience of making a poster when the criteria are clear. This is one of my favorite things we do with children that are like 12 to 13 years old. My history colleague made this. It's about making a diary about a historic figure. We do it about Willem Barents. It was a man who tried to find a different route to India and Indonesia. Most of them went from Europe all the way down to Africa and then to Asia. But he said, no, we can do it via a northern route, actually above Russia. But he didn't really know there was so much ice, so he stranded, and he needed to make out of a ship a house, and eventually they returned because they couldn't reach. But that's a nice story, and there are a lot of historic stories that can be written in a diary. And as a student, you can be creative because you can make some things up, but keep certain historic, really important events and really tell the story of someone. And you can make it look old. You can be creative, and you can read about it. But it's more fun to really imagine how will it be to be such a person in history, and what will I experience? What will I think? What will I feel? What will I see? Make some drawings. He's attacked by ice bears, as you see in the picture. So it's a really nice learning experience for them. So, and these are some examples, and this is a really inspirational quote for me, because there's a difference between content knowledge and pedagogical knowledge. Because you can know a lot about history, geography, science, whatever, but between knowing your subject and knowing how to teach your subject, there's a huge difference, because there's a lot of smart people, but there are maybe less people that really understand how to teach the knowledge he has. So I think all these assignments, but there are a lot of more examples that those are examples of how you can teach your knowledge, and not just, okay, we're going to read chapter 2, and then, okay, now you should know it, and next week you have a test. No, there should be more of it, more interaction. You should give inspiration, give choices to really make them enjoy the class. So student choice is also an option, as I said. And as a geography teacher, I give them the choice between, okay, you can draw this, or you can make a mind map. There are different things, so you can draw like how a volcano was formed, like this, or you can just make the assignments in the book. In both ways you will learn about volcanoes. So The outcome is the same, but not for every student it motivates him the same. So maybe he thinks the exercises are boring, or he can't draw, so he makes the exercises, but it makes choice and it will give motivation. I also try, because normally when I say, okay, we're going to do chapter 1 and you make the exercise today, then students will maybe skip the difficult questions. So sometimes I try to make them a choice. Okay, you need to have to learn these 3 things. You decide what exercises you need to accomplish these learning goals. So then they won't skip those difficult questions, because they know, no, I need to make this one to achieve this learning goal. So give them choices and they will feel responsible. Okay, I can't skip this one, I need to do this. So give choices, it's important for me. Now I'll skip this. Innovative lesson designs. A feared subject is like the global wind system in geography. It's always difficult, high pressure, low pressure. It's difficult. So I try to give them sometimes balloons, sometimes like a plate in which they can draw it and understand it in a different way. I also try, when I learn my students about rocks, not just give them a photo or a PowerPoint, but give them the actual rocks, because they can feel it, they can feel the weight, they can maybe even taste it to see what kind of rock it is. There's different things you can do to really learn about rocks. And it will become much more lively if you actually experience it. This is one of the favorite things I've done the past 10 years. Correspondence projects. I've heard in another session it was old-fashioned, but it's still nice to write letters with other people on the other side of the country, other side of the world actually. So I've done this I think 3 or 4 times, and actually in my suitcase in my hotel room I've brought 30 letters, Dutch letters, and I will go to TSA, maybe Madurai or another campus, to hand out the letters, and I hope to bring Indian letters back, and I hope then maybe afterwards we can do it digitally, and maybe via Zoom or Skype or whatever they can see each other and learn from each other. I also like to involve parents. This is an example of a postcard in which at the right I will write, okay, we've learned about mountain forming in South America. Those are 5 things I've learned the students. And then the students need to hand it over to the parents, and the parents will ask them about it. And the parents should write on the left side what they've learned from the student. And then the student will hand it over to me, and I will see, okay, the parent wrote it. Did the student really understand how mountains are formed in South America? And on the right side, at the right bottom, I can give feedback to the student. So it's a way that they get feedback from the parents, feedback from me, and feedback will lead, will motivate, will make them achieve the learning goals or get past, learn more eventually. So there are a lot of active learning methods. Here are some examples you might know: Brain Neighbor book, 2 Throughs, 1 Lie, Cops and Robbers, Retrieval practice grids. You probably know some of them. I think the PowerPoint will be shared and you can look them up, because I don't have the time to explain them all, but these are things I use weekly, especially 2 Throughs, 1 Lie. You've talked about the subject. Next class you say, okay, please, no books, just write down 2 Throughs, 1 Lie about what we've talked about. And when you've done it 5 minutes in silence, you're going to challenge your neighbor to find the truths, find the lies, and there will be more thinking about what we've done the last class, and not, okay, we're going to the next chapter, next paragraph. No, think about what we've learned, and they will be more active in the class, actually. And the retrieval practice grid is another one of my favorites. You might know it, but what happens is, you might know this, the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. It's about when you've learned, remember like 50% out of it. And as a teacher, sometimes you hope, oh, I've been so inspirational, such a nice talk, they will remember everything. But no, unfortunately not. So you need to tell them like again and again and again and again to really make them remember it. So this is a way of doing it. This is a retrieval practice grid that you can use every month to make sure that things you've discussed about like 1 month ago come back every now and then, and even things from like a year ago or 2 years ago. Because in the green you see 4 points. Those are things that are like maybe 1 year ago, and the things that are only worth 1 point are like from 1 week ago. So it makes sure that they really want to understand things even from a longer period ago, because it will give them more points. It's not for a grade, of course, but it's a competition, and they want to do good. And you can do it individually, or you can do it in duos. Please make sure that you fill in the whole thing. Eventually, at our school, we try to create a formative culture. I know in my experience at TSA that you've been busy with formative assessments. It was actually, I think part of your education system, like FA1, FA2, FA3. But there's a difference between formative assessments and really a formative culture. Because things get formative when there's a lot of feedback. So you do an exercise or an assignment, and after that there will be some feedback moment. It can be the student itself, it can be his neighbor in the class, it can be the teacher, that will make sure that he will know what to do next, how to get to the learning goal. So it's about this actually. Every student needs to know where are you going, where are you now, and how to get there. That's all about formative. So it's not just one assignment. No, it's really a cycle that's going on in your school the whole time. Every student needs to know during the class, where am I now, where am I going, and how will I get there? So those are the 3 questions that you should ask yourself when you design an activity. Because what am I achieving now? Do I want to check where they are now? Do I need to make some good learning goals to make sure where they're going? Or do I need to give feedback about how they're going to get where I want them to be? So that's important. And some things stay within the class, like formative assessment, learning formative, but eventually at our school we try to make it really a formative culture in which when we have like a gathering with the teachers about the class, we really should give examples like, oh no, he got this grade, but I've seen the development during the past few weeks, and I know where he's at, I know where he's going, and I know how we will get them to the next step. So when you get a formative culture, you really know about the development of your student. Sounds like a lot of work, but it's, and we're not there yet, but I think it's a nice thing to get eventually. And the thing I do the most now is this, like the 5 steps of feedback. So whenever I've shown you a lot of examples, right? Like the poster, like the debate, like all those things I do, and I try to use this, the 5 steps of feedback. So whenever I start a subject, I start an assignment, I want to give a clear instruction and quality expectation. So not just make a poster, no, there needs to be a timeline, needs to be this, needs to be that, so clear instruction, that's important. Then they start the subject, and I'm going to just walk around in the class, and you will see good things and bad things. And you can go talk individually to a student, but it will take a lot of time. So what I do is in the first half an hour, I just walk around first 50 minutes, and I'll make some notes, and then I'll say, okay, please stop your work. I've seen everybody working, and these things are things that everybody should think about when they're writing. So I will give the common mistakes I've seen, but I will also give the good examples, and every student needs to write it down. So it's not really individual, it's really for the whole group. Okay, then they proceed, and then the students will give themselves feedback. I always use rubrics. I prefer single-point rubrics, if you know it, but I always use rubrics with clear instructions or expectations. And they give themselves feedback, because most of the times The rubric is there, but the students won't check it, they won't see it. And afterwards they say like, oh, like I got this grade, why? I said, but this was one of the things that was in the rubric and it's missing. There's no title on your map or there's no explanation or conclusion in your piece of paper, but they could have seen it. So if you really make them give themselves feedback with the rubric, they will make their work better. Fourth step is to give peer feedback. I try to do that every assignment in some class to let the students learn from each other. Cooperative working is so important to me, so a lot of these examples that I give are done in groups or in duos. But when you do it by yourself, it's so important to give feedback to each other. And the fifth step, the final step, then I will give the feedback. And a lot of things that were wrong or could have been better they improved it already because there were 4 steps ahead of it, and it will save me time, it will save the student time, and then I will give feedback. And even then, it's an important rule, don't ever spend more time giving feedback than the student will take to improve it, because it's not like, okay, I'm going to give 10 minutes feedback and the student will improve it in 1 minute. No, 1 minute time of me should give him like maybe 30 minutes of actually work. It's important not to, because feedback seems like a lot of time, but you can do it in an effective way that it won't take a lot of time if you're using this cycle, and it will improve the work of your students, yourself, and it will save a lot of time, I think. And at our school, as has been said in the introduction, we are trying to create a formative culture, and we did it in an interesting way, I think. That's the last thing I want to share with you. Because we made a book, it's actually in my hotel room, but this is the cover of a book, a handbook we call it, and it's made by teachers. So the board or the principal said, okay, who's interested in formative assessment for creating a formative culture? So a few people said, okay, yeah, we want to do it. So we formed a group. So during year 1, we trained a group of teachers to become experts in formative assessment. Of course, the principal was there, but she was just attending the training. And then in year 2, a few of those people that were really interested in formative assessment wrote a handbook or authored a handbook outlining how we would like to implement it in the school. So it's not something from above, it's really something that was brought up by the teachers. So they decided how do we want to do it within the school. In year 3, we published the book, this is the cover, and every teacher was given the book, and there's a lot of examples of how you can do it, why we should do it. Really, our vision is in there. And next year we're going into our 4th year, and we're going to monitor, maintain, and evaluate the process, because it's really a long process. You won't be in 4 years, and you won't get a formative culture, but it's a nice goal to try to achieve that every student knows where they're at, where they're going, and why they're going that way, and every teacher knows this about their students. What do they need, and what do they need to achieve the goals, and eventually do well at the summative assessment? Because summative assessments are still there, but between those summative assessments, there should be a lot of formative moments it's a bad thing for me when it's a surprise for students and teachers when they get a low grade. It should be, during the process, it should be clear where he's going and what is needed to do well at the summative test. This was the most important things. I have a lot of things to say, but this was the most important things I would like to share with you. Are there any questions for me?
It is now time for the Q&A, so please raise your hand if you have a question. If not, please write it on your question cards provided.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much. This is a very nice presentation. My question to you is, with regards to the sketch test without words, not all children have the capability or the skill of drawing. What if they miss out on the drawing part, but they're able to express by words? Will that underestimate the child's ability of understanding the concept?
Yeah, really good question. Of course, it's I can imagine, because I work at Art College, so a lot of children are really focused on drawing and making videos, etc. So in my school, it might be different, but during actual tests, I always give them the opportunity to also write it down. If they can write it down perfectly, I'm fine with it, because during the national exams there won't be drawing, it will be about writing. But I think when you draw it, you will get a different concept or different way of how it actually works. But if you can write it down perfectly, it's fine with me. Yep. Good question. Anyone else? Questions? If not, I really hope that that there was some inspiration, some things that you will use, maybe your next class or afterwards. Please come to me if you want to hear more examples, because I've shown a lot of examples, some very quickly. So if you want to know more, please come to me. I'd love to explain, love to share PowerPoints or ways of working or exercises.
I think Mrs. Navanitha.
The extension to the question that they were asking about drawing and writing. So I think, like here, we just talk about a project and we do not actually give the rubrics, but once you designate as to what the template is all about, and maybe, the evaluation, as you said, the rubrics are very, very important. And I have the final question, like, what makes you so creative, and do you have a separate system in the school, which tells you that you ought to follow all of these for the formative tasks, or do you just do it on your own, just because you want to do it as a teacher?
As a teacher, yeah, actually, because I was telling, we're working in a really special school, so there are no classrooms, it's all connected to each other, and that's such a nice environment to work in, because each teacher sees each other. So we're actually teaching colleague history teacher Wim or Brenda or any teacher. I see them doing some interesting, and we share it with each other. And we have like an how do you call it, the OneDrive thing with for all geography teacher. We share with each other. So everything that I develop is available for my colleagues, and in that way we inspire each other. And I think it's so strange. Actually, in the Netherlands, it was for a long time, and I think still is. Every teacher, geography teachers, makes their own tests, make their own assignments, does a lot of things that another teacher, like 2 kilometers away, also does. It's really a waste of time. If we should share with each other, because it's a waste of time if everybody thinks of these tests on his own, because I think we all do the same thing, and we should share, at least on our school, but I think it could be even more than just a school. Thank you, Mr. Navanitha.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jos.
Thank you for having me.